Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name is Luke. Today we are going to do what for me is a incredibly fast video, very short video, relatively speaking, specifically about the Nord Wave 2. I did a patch deconstruction of a Tangerine Dream sort of esque patch on the Wave 2, and a couple people said, hey, can you do more Nord Wave 2 stuff? So, I know I try and be general so it works for hardware, software, and without having to have a specific synth. But today I'm just going to do a Nord Wave 2 patch, deconstruct it, and you can build this patch yourself in software or hardware, however you want to do it. In fact, I'm going to show you how I source the sounds from this by sampling other instruments. Okay, I'm going to sample a Native Instruments VST to provide one of the layers in here. So let's get started. All right, here's a sample of the sound itself. This is it. All right. And the mod wheel will bring in more of this sort of bell attack. Or we can take it out completely. Or somewhere in between. So what is this? Well, it's 4 layers, and the first layer I want to focus on is actually the bell sound. Does that sound familiar for anybody who's a Native Instruments Reaktor user? May know this sound because I sampled it from Native Instruments Reaktor. All right. What is this? Well, this is an instrument in Reaktor called Prism. Specifically, it's a sound called Silver Bowl. But you're not actually hearing that VST, you're hearing my sample I captured from it. And so, sorry, I can't publish this patch because I can't give you the sample. You can sample your own VSTs, third party, and reuse it in the Nord Wave 2 or any sampler. It's your creation. You can do that. You just can't sell them again. You're selling someone else's work at that point. So I do this a lot because while I could build this patch, and you can build this patch by layering Prism on top of a couple other things. The other layers I have in here I'll deconstruct. And that works fine, and go ahead and do that. The reason I'm doing it is this way is because I really like the immediacy of a sampler, in this case the Nord Wave 2. I capture that timbre, load it in here as a sample, and it's just available whenever I want. I don't have to worry about routing and layers and getting the levels and things like that. It's just captured in here. And I do this with analog gear a lot. I'm a sort of a OCD about tuning. And as much as I like analog hardware, not software, I really don't like it when it drifts way out of tune, which is why, for example, I don't own a Moog 1. I did for about a year, but it was just, I couldn't keep it in tune enough. So it was a constant source of frustration. So it's gone. Now, let's take this apart. Now, this next section's a little Nord Wave 2 specific. How do you sample this thing? Well, this will work for any sampler you have. So I've got the instrument loaded in here. All right. And I've got a little multiband compressor just trying to pull some of the, even out some of the pieces. All right. You're hearing it already printed in the sample. And then I use a gate because what happens is when we sample this, we play this MIDI clip, which I've made. And this is just a MIDI clip that walks up the scale. Now, it doesn't hit every note in the scale. In the lowest octave, it just plays a C and an F. In the highest octave, it just plays an F and then a C. And then in between, we play every whole step. So it goes C, D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. Okay, that's 5 minutes. I want to get under 15. So we sample these notes. C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. And we do that for about 5 octaves. All right, so I've got my lowest octave is C and F. then 5 octaves of C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and then at the very end, C, F, C. All right. And then what we do is I route this into the Reaktor synth, and I route the audio from that over into an audio channel, and I just capture it. All right. So I capture it, and it just sounds like this. I capture the tail, and then the gate closes. And we capture the next note. And I just let this run and record it. We'll get one more note. There you go. So you can hear that just walks up the scale. C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. You know, I don't actually play every note. And you could if you wanted to, but it saves on sample space if you just go every step, every whole step. And then what I do is once that audio is printed, you can go look at the WAV file. In Ableton, you just say show in Finder or show in Explorer, and here's the WAV file. And you take that file, that's on the Mac it's an AIFF, but you can set it to be WAV, or if you're on Windows it's WAV. And you drag it into the sample editor, in this case the Nord sample editor. If you're going to use a different sampler, you would drag that into whatever sampler you're going to use in Contact or whatever sample tank. I'm not even sure what's out there. I know Contact and I know the Nord Wave and the Ableton stock sampler. But you may have to do some slicing and dicing. Now the reason I like the Nord Wave too is because it tries to do the slicing and dicing for me. So it finds the start and end and the loop point, and it guesses at what educatedly guesses at what the root note of that particular sample is. And it maps it out to a keyboard. And depending on the sound, like this particular sound is this sort of enharmonic sort of metallic tone. It has a little trouble doing metallics and things like that, tuned percussion. Sometimes you'll have to tweak it a bit. Generally, you have to tweak it a little bit. And I tweak the start and stop point, but then I load it over into the Nord. It's really simple. And at that point, what happens is I end up with this sound. Let's hear it just raw. We'll turn off the reverb. We'll turn off the effects. All right. Now, what do we lose when we do it this way? Well, my sampler here is not velocity sensitive. I mean, it's velocity sensitive, but it doesn't do multi-samples based on velocity. You want to get the soft stuff, the in-between stuff, and the loud stuff. In this case, I didn't do that because this sampler doesn't do velocity switching for samples, but things like Contact certainly does. The Ableton sampler does, and you can set that up. But I like it to be simple. So I take a single recording of here's my notes at one velocity, slice it up, drop it in here. And you can use your amplitude envelope and your filter to close the filter a little bit when you're playing softly, close the amplifier envelope when you're playing softly, and you get something very similar and useful to a multi-sample. Now, and I apologize, you're probably going to hear some of the road just outside my window here today. It's Sunday, and the motorcycle guys like to drive by. So, that's layer one. All right, and I give it a little bit of panning. A little bit. And then I drop some reverb on it. So that's layer one. Layer two is going to be this synth patch. Okay, we're at the 10-minute mark. We'll do this in the last 5. You can use whatever you want. This is a super saw, slightly detuned. Here it is flat. We can go crazy. Like that sound, but for me, I'm just going to drop it in here around 20% detuned. This is it dry. I put a little bit of a chorus on it, a little stage ambience. We're talking 80s prog rock, right? So it's on the stage. It's arena rock. Dad rock. So that's our second layer. Okay. And then our third layer, there's actually two layers that are the same. C and D are. So what is that? That's a sawtooth wave. It's actually two sawtooth waves an octave apart. And they've got a bandpass filter on them and a fair amount of resonance. And that bandpass filter is being swept with a really long attack, about 8 seconds, between, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds, and then a decay of around 9, 10, or 11 seconds. All right. And there's a little phaser on that. Let's hear it dry, actually. Here's this dry. You can hear the filters actually distorting a little bit in the resonance. You can hear some crispies up in there. So we give it a little phaser. Then a little delay. And then a reverb. When we put that all together, we bring our bells down. Well, we'll take it out completely. So just the super saw sort of pad sound, and then those filter sweeps. And we can bring in the bells with the mod wheel. And that's it. So I guess the takeaway from this is if you're using Nord Wave 2 or you have access to a sampler, you can layer all your synths and VSTs together. But there's something to be said for sampling, making simple, not complex samples of particular tones, like this bell attack. Right? And then you use that not as an instrument so much as an accent for the sounds, the other sounds. My very first synthesizer I ever fell in love with was Roland D10. And the D series had this, linear additive synthesis. And what it was little sampled attacks that would play at the beginning of the sound, and then the synth sound would take over, blend in. And this is kind of like that. I'm using this little sampled attack of the bell, right? And laying that very lightly as an interesting attack on the rest of the sounds, and then using a couple oscillators sweeping in the background to give it more sort of depth. Anyway, that's that. Thanks for watching. This is really just my attempt at a very quick video to deconstruct some ideas in patch design. So multiple layers. I always work in layers because that's just works for me. And I don't need a synth with 9 different oscillators and 2 filters and a bunch of effects. What I need is 4 very simple synthesizers that I can move through quickly and then layer the output of those. So one last time, this one uses a bell, right? A super saw, and then a couple of sweeping sawtooth with a lot of resonance and a bandpass filter. And as always, everything has some form of audio modulation like chorus or phasing. Maybe a bit of delay and a ton of reverb. That's it. So I hope this was useful, or at least entertaining. I hope it was short. And as always, you've been watching Synth Seeker. Have a great day. God, I can't play the piano anymore. I've been playing grids too long. What 80s movie is that from?